going to have composite and mixture supply and composition levy. And today's our speaker is Mr. C.A. Kedarnath Garu, very young and young chartered accountant. It is my privilege to introduce today's speaker. C.A. Kedarnath is a qualified chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He qualified in the year 2015. He is also a qualified cost and management accountant from ICMA. He secured All India 26th rank in CMA final examination, received a gold medal from Institute President in the year 2013. At student level in national conventions conducted by ICAI at various locations like Delhi, Mumbai, Nagpur and Hyderabad. He is having post qualification worked for 2 years in a power sector and 1 year for MNC. He is currently practicing as India Tax Manager at Manohar Chaudhary and State Hyderabad. He is also a guest speaker for the Institute of Cost and Cost Management, Cost Accountants of India Hyderabad chapter architecture topic. His passion is to learn new things and explore into the subject. With this brief introduction, I am handing over again to Pankaj sir and then Kedar sir.
Thank you. I am ending polling and I am sharing the results also. Kedar, I leave it to you to comment on this. I hope all of you can you see the results, please? I think one person said sale and 18% said supply, and none of the above, and service was 0%. So now, Kedar, I welcome you to the day 3. These are the poll results. I will keep adding the poll. Haribhai, you are there. I will be just switching off the video, but I am here only to intervene whenever you want. So over to you, Kedar. But Haribhai, if you want to say something before Kedar starts, it's up to you. Unmute.
We are already discussed. I requested Kedar to give more examples rather than explaining the provisions. Basic understanding about the provision. The purpose and object is to give basic view of the subject. So I said him, don't go into the hyper technicalities. Let us stick to the basic understanding of composite supply and mixed supply and composition supply.
And I'd like to also inform everyone that even yesterday's PPT has been uploaded, and once we receive Kedarnath's PPT, we'll upload it in the site. So don't copy or don't try to take pictures of the slide, just concentrate on the lecture. Over to you, Kedar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pankaj sir, and thank you, Satish sir, and thank you, Satish Saraf sir, and thank you, Harkishan sir, for giving this opportunity to take the session today. First of all, I would like to say a warm welcome to the third day's session of GST Basics for Beginners. As a part of GST for Beginners session, I was given a topic called Composite and Mixed Supply and Composition Levy under GST. So my screen is visible? Please, can you confirm?
It's clearly visible.
Okay, thank you, sir. So just now we raised one poll asking what is a taxable event, and majority of members said that taxable event is a supply. Yes, it's absolutely correct. Then, before starting my session, I would like to tell about what are the relevant sections and rules which I'm going to discuss in today's session. At the topic, it is very limited to composite supply and mixed supply and composition levy scheme. The following sections and the rules will be applicable for the said subject. Section 8 deals with the composite supply and mixed supply, and section 10 deals with composition levy scheme and CGST rules 2017, which are applicable for the composition levy scheme. That is rule 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At due course, I'm going to introduce one by one section and one by one rule as and when necessary and as and when required. Let me start my topic by introducing the concept of, once again, the concept of taxable event. Please understand, the concept of a taxable event is a foundation stone in any taxation system, because the taxable event plays a vital role to decide at what point of a time the transaction shall be levied into a charge, levied or a charge to the tax. Second thing, before levying any tax, taxable event must be ascertained. Based on the taxable event only, the entity or else the statute can levy the tax from the public. So in GST law, it resolves the issue by laying down only one and only the comprehensive term that is called as supply. In the erstwhile laws, we used to have plenty of words like sale of goods, rendering of a service, transfer, so and so things. But in GST era, there is a one and only the word that is called a supply. It speaks about all the parameters which form part of a taxable event. In order to qualify supply, what are the parameters one has to see? In order to qualify the supply, it should satisfy the supply should be of a goods or services. In case of if the supply other than goods or services like money, securities, or actionable claims, etc., which does not attract GST, which are out of the purview of the GST. Supply should be made for a consideration. Either the consideration may be a monetary consideration or non-monetary consideration. Supply should be made in the course or furtherance of a business. In case of any supply which is made for a personal purpose, then it cannot be treated as a supply. So any transaction, in order to qualify as a supply, it should satisfy the four conditions. There should be a goods or services. It should not be other than goods. It must be made for a consideration, and supply should be made in the course of business or furtherance of business. Now, what constitutes supply? Supply includes sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal. The word disposal here in the sense disposal of a business assets. When the entity has availed any ITC on the business assets, at the time of making a sale of such business assets, they are liable to pay the GST. The last one is import of services for consideration. These things are form part of a supply. When there is a word supply is there, then again, why should we have a concept called composite supply and mixed supply? Please understand, GST is payable on individual goods or services are both at the notified rates. The application of a rates poses no problem if the supply of individual goods or individual services. It means when we make a sale of individual goods or individual service, then there is no problem. Straight away, we have a set of rates. We have definite rate chart we have, which is prescribed and recommended by the GST Council. Based on that rates, we can levy the tax. But whenever there is a supply takes place in a combination. In a combination means two or more. It means the combination means either it may be two or more goods, or a combination of a services, or a combination of goods or services both. Here, my intention is to say when the supply is taking place with a combination of a goods or services, or a combination of a goods, or a combination of a services, then it is a very difficult part to determine at what rate GST shall be applicable or GST shall be leviable. Then, in order to determine such kind of a combination of a sales, we need the concept of a composite supply and a mixed supply. Let's understand. Each individual component of such supplies may attract a different rate of a tax. Correct? In such cases, the rate of tax to be levied on such supplies may be a challenging thing. If it is for this reason that the GST law identifies composite and mixed supplies and provides a certainty in respect of tax treatment of GST for such supplies. Say for example, Mr. X purchases a set-top box for television, and he also asks the dealer to provide installation services in his premises. If you consider about the set-top box attracts GST at the rate of 28%, and there are the installation services. We know all services, generally all the services in GST law attracts 18%. For goods in GST law, they have given a harmonized HSN code. HSN code they have given, harmonized nomenclature code they have given, whereas in case of a services they have given service accounting code. Please understand the setup box attracts a GST at the rate of 28%, whereas the installation services attracts service being it is a service, it attracts 18%. Now the dealer is a dilemma that at what rate I shall levy from the customer, whether it is a 28% or 18%, because in combination is making a sale to the end user. Then this in order to determine at what rate the supply shall be or is charged into the tax, one has to understand the concept of a composite supply and mixed supply is very important. You know, this composite supply and mixed supply helps to determine the correct GST rate and provides uniform tax treatment under GST for such supplies. So my intention here is to explain when there is a when there is a combination of a supply, then there is the challenge will arise at what rate of a tax shall be charged or shall be levied from a customer. Now I am entering into the concept of a composite supply. Composite supply is defined under section 8 of clause A. A composite supply comprising of two or more supplies, one of which is a principal supply, shall be treated as a supply of such principal supply. This is a bare provision which is given in the Act. Let's understand what it says. Let me give the interpretation about the provision. Composite supply means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient. It means a composite supply means one supply which is made by a taxable person to a recipient. The recipient may be a ultimate end user, or he may be a retailer, he may be a wholesaler, anyone. Comprises of two or more taxable supplies of goods or services or both, or any combination thereof. It means a composite supplies comprises of two or more supplies of either it may be two or more supplies of a goods or two or more supplies of a services, or a combination of a both, which are taxable supplies and which are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of a business. Which means which are naturally bundled in the sense which the supplies can be supplied together only, which cannot be separated. If the one supply, if we remove from the supply, then the other supply will not be function. One of which is a principal supply. Now we need to understand about what is the meaning of a principal supply. Principal supply means the supply of goods or services which constitutes the predominant element of a composite supply and other supplies forming part of a ancillary supplies. It means what is the meaning of a principal supply says under the supply, as I said that under the supply, it must consist of a combination of a goods or services. Combination of a goods or combination of a service or a combination of a goods and services. And one supply shall be a predominant element and other should be an ancillary item. Let me give an example. ABC Limited, who manufactures glass doors. Now, XYZ Limited is placing an order to the ABC Limited for glass doors. Then ABC Limited, they have to take care about a special package for glass door to be delivered to the XYZ premises at a safe mode. Then ABC Limited, apart from the special packing, they are also taking care of freight. They are also taking care of insurance. In between any damages happen, the ABC Limited can claim from the insurance company. Then all together, they're making a supply to the end user or else a customer. Here in my example, that is called XYZ Limited. Then here the combination of both goods and services are taking place. Here the goods are glass doors and the services are freight, insurance, transportation, and apart from this, a special packing also a goods which involved. It means a combination of different supplies which are involved. Out of these combination, the predominant element is called as a principal supply, that is glass doors. If the glass doors are not there, and other supplies will not be there and it will be affected. It means under a composite supply, one has to verify what is the principal supply, which means which places a vital role in the supply. Now the question will arise is how to determine if it is a composite supply. We need to consider the following criteria. one. Supply of two or more goods or services are both, as I said, right? And the supply is naturally bundled. The supply is naturally bundled. That is, goods or services are usually provided together in the ordinary course of business. It means the goods or services are usually provided in the ordinary course of business in a combination of both. They cannot be separated or supplied separately. Now the question will arise, what is the tax rate will be applicable for the composite supply? The tax rate for the principal supply will apply on the tax rate of the principal supply will apply on the entire supply. It means whatever the tax rate suffered by the principal supply will be applicable for the entire supply. Suppose take an example, in my example, like a glass doors, for our better understanding, suppose the glass door suffers with a 28% GST, whereas other forming part of insurance, freight, transportation suffers with 18%. Let us understand for example's sake. Then the entire supply will be suffered with the tax at the rate of 28%, because the principal supply in my example is a glass door. The principal supply rate is a 28%, which constitutes a principal supply. That rate will be applicable to the entire supply. Then, let me go with some more examples. ABC Limited manufacturers entered into a contract with XYZ Limited for supply of a ready-made shirts packed in a designer boxes at XYZ Limited's outlet. Further, ABC manufacturers would also get them insured during the transit. In this case, supply of goods, packing materials, transport, insurance is a composite supply, wherein supply of goods is a principal supply. Same example, similar to my example, where there glass doors I mentioned here. The example says about the ready-made shirts. So in this example, the principal supply is a goods, that is called a ready-made shirts, and the ancillary supplies are called packing materials, transport, and insurance. Then what is the tax liability will be applicable here means the tax on the principal supply, that is called the ready-made shirts, is called as a principal supply. Whatever the tax rate applicable to the ready-made shirt, the tax rate will be applicable. Let me say if the ready-made shirt attracts 12% GST, whereas other things like transportation, insurance, even they attract at 18% also, the tax liability will be considered at the rate of 12% only, because in this example, the principal supply is a ready-made shirts. Based on the principal supply only, we can determine and decide the applicable tax rate in the event of a composite supply. Let me come to the second example. When a consumer buys a television set and he also gets warranty and maintenance contract with the TV, the supply is a composite supply, right? When a consumer buys a television, he also gets 1 year warranty and 1 year maintenance contract from the TV, from the television dealer. Then the supply is also a composite supply, whereas it is a combination of a goods and services. In this example, the principal supply will be considered as a supply of a TV, and the ancillary supplies will be considered as a warranty and maintenance services to the television. Hence, the tax liability will be applicable in this example. The tax rate which is applicable to the principal supply, that is called supply of a TV. If the supply of TV attracts 18%, the whole supply, the whole composite of supply will be liable for the 18%. Coming to the next example, when we book train tickets for Rajdhani Express, generally for a Rajdhani Express, the train ticket, the price which includes meal. It means that Indian Railway or IRCTC, they collect the train fare plus meal cost together. Then we can call it as a supply of a transportation services, and it called as a supply of a transportation services and a supply of a food. Then the question will arise whether can we call it a bundle services. Yes, it is called as a bundle services. And whether it is a composite supply or not. Yes, this is a composite supply. So please understand the predominant element in this example is transportation of a passengers, transportation of the passengers. Hence, transportation passenger is a predominant supply, and that is called the principal supply. And the principal supply, the tax GST rate will be applicable. The tax implication or it's a GST rate which is liable to the principal supply, that is called as the transportation of passengers. The same rate is applicable to the food also. Coming to the another example, ABC Hospitals provides doctor consultancy services and food to inpatients. Now, we are aware about that healthcare services are exempted from the GST, whereas food is suffered with 5% GST. Now the question will arise whether the food which is served in the hospital is liable for GST or not. In this scenario, the composite supply plays a vital role. As I said that in case of a composite supply, we need to verify what is the principal supply. The principal supply in this example is healthcare services. Once healthcare services are exempted from the tax, then the entire supply in that service and in that supply is exempted from the GST, even though food is suffered with 5% GST, because the food will be treated as a ancillary supply. Now, in order to determine whether a supply as a composite supply, we require the prerequisite thing is a principal supply. We need to determine what is a principal supply in a specific supply. Now, please understand, to determine the principal supply, we need to verify whether the principal supply is bundled supply or not. Bundled supply is nothing but a combination of a goods and or services. Suppose if the bundled supply is a naturally bundled or not naturally bundled. If the bundled supply is naturally bundled, that is called composite supply. Take an example, again I'm coming back to the Rajdhani Train Express. At the time of booking, the passenger intention is to travel from one city to another city. Meanwhile, is getting a food. For having a food is not traveling. For traveling, he is getting the food from the railways. Right? In this example, the principal supply will be a transportation of a passengers, and the transportation services and the food services which are naturally bundled. Hence, once it is a naturally bundled, the services are naturally bundled, then it will be called as a composite supply. If it is not naturally bundled, that is called a mixed supply. I'm going to discuss this concept after some time. Let's understand. Now again the question will arise is how to determine if it is a naturally bundled. There is a $1 million question that how can I say that a supply shall be naturally bundled or not naturally bundled? Please understand there is a certain parameters or else a criteria which is set by the law. In order to call a supply as a naturally bundled, then we need to check the following parameters. Take example, if buyers mostly expect such services to be provided as a package, then the package will be treated as a naturally bundled. It means it is the perception or else a expectation from the buyers in the normal course of a business. It means, take a scenario, our ICAI wants to conduct a workshop or else a seminar in Hotel Novotel. They want to hire Hotel Novotel for 2 days. Generally, they book for a auditorium, as well as they also expect a service from them, food service also. Auditorium which falls under a service category, whereas the food which falls under a goods. Once it is a combination of two things, and it falls one each other is linked with each other, then it will be called as a naturally bundled. So in my example, most business conventions look for a combination of hotel accommodation, auditorium, and food. Second one, if most of the service providers in the industry provide a package of services, then it can be considered as a naturally bundled. Most of the service providers in the industry, they provide in a package form the services. Air transport and food on board is a bundled offered by the most of the airlines. Say example, Indigo Airlines, they're providing on board one burger to the each passenger. Then the service which are provided by air transportation as well as a food supply to the passengers is a package. They're giving as a package. Then we can determine whatever the food is supplied, which is naturally bundled along with the transportation, air transportation services. Coming to the third aspect, the nature of the various services in a bundled services will also help to identify whether the services are bundled. Best thing I want to say, the nature of various services. Sometimes some 5-star hotels, often they provide free laundry services on staying at the hotels to the guests. Here the principal supply, or else here the main supply will be renting of a rooms, and laundry services will be called as a ancillary supply. In order to avail the laundry services, one has to stay in the hotel. Then the laundry services which are provided to the guest at a free of cost will be called as a naturally bundled with the hotel accommodation services. Few more things like other illustrative indicators to determine whether a particular service is naturally bundled or not. Generally, for a naturally bundled services, there is a single price for a package will be charged. It means if you go to a hotel, if you go for a convention center, generally they give a auditorium plus food per plate 1,000 rupees like that. It means they will take a single price for the package. Once they're charging a single price for a particular package, then it will be called as a naturally bundled, and it can be considered as a composite supply. Second one, the elements are normally advertised as a package. The supply is generally advertised in a price is advertised in a packaged. The different elements are not available separately. Independent elements, sometimes the independent elements may not be available separately. Again, coming back to the Rajdhani Express, in the whatever the food which is providing in the Rajdhani train, one cannot get separately from the IRCTC the same food which is serving in the Rajdhani train. That is called the different elements are not available separately. The different elements are integral to one overall supply. If one or more is removed, the nature of the supply will be affected. It means out of among all the supplies, one supply will be called as a principal supply, and that is an integral part to the overall supply. If the integral part of a supply is removed from the whole supply, then entire supply will be affected. There are the certain circulars which are issued by the CBIC in order to determine whether a supply is a principal supply or not. The first example, the first circular, the first issue I would like to address here: supply of a printed books, pamphlets, brochures, envelopes, annual reports, leaflets, cartoons, boxes, etc. printed with the designer logo, name, address, or other content supplied by the recipient of such printed books. Take an example: ABC Limited. They want to print their annual report. They approached a printer, asking the printer, kindly print the annual report. The ABC Limited is providing some content, right? What are the matter to be published in the annual report? Entire content is supplied by the ABC Limited to the printer. It means to the printing press. Then the CBIC come up with a circular saying that here the predominant component is a content which is supplied by the recipient, supplied by the service recipient. That is called ABC Limited. Hence, this will be constitute a supply of a service. The principal supply is a supply of service, and the service, whatever the tax rate which is applicable to the service, the tax rate shall be taken into consideration here. It means 18% tax shall be leviable from the transaction. Take some other example, some other issue which is clarified by the CBIC. Suppose the ABC Limited, now in this scenario, they're taking envelopes, they're printing envelopes, or else say business cards to their employees. Now the printer is providing the material, the paper and everything they is providing, and a design, logo and everything is described by the customized by ABC Limited, but the printer is is doing the printing activity. In this scenario, the principal supply will be treated as a supply of a goods. That is called the rate which is applying to the supply of a goods shall be taken into consideration. The rate of a goods like the voucher or else the visiting cards, whatever the tax rate will be applicable, the same rate will be applicable to the whole of the services. This is based on the CBIC circular. Coming to the activity of a bus body building, the principal supply may be determined on the basis of facts and circumstances of each case. The CBIC has not given any clarification with respect to this. This is determined based on the facts and circumstances of each case. The next one is retreading of a trades. Retreading of a trades means the sole which is changing for the trades. Generally, what the circular says, predominant element is a process of retrading, which is a supply of a service. Rubber used for retrading is an ancillary supply. It means whatever the retrading activity which is carried out by a manufacturer for a automobile industry or also for a end user, that will be treated as a supply of services. Again, the CBIC has interpreted in a different dimension, saying that if the types are supplied by a manufacturer, he himself doing the manufacturing like retrading activity is doing from his own types, then this will be formed of a supply of a goods. Why the distinction is required? Well, when one has to understand, please understand here, if at all it falls under the supply of services means the rate which is applicable to the service, that rate is applicable to the whole of supply. If it is falls to the supply of a goods, the rate which is applicable to the supply of a goods, that rate will be applicable to the whole of the supply. Irrespective whether higher or a lower rate, the principal supply will be determined. Based on that principal supply only, the rate shall be decided for levying the GST. Apart from this, I would like to add one more circular here. For an automobile industry, which involves when we give a servicing for our car to an automobile showroom, generally it involves a goods that is called a spare parts and a service that is called a labor component. The CBIC has come up with a white circular number 47/21/2018, GST dated 8th June 2018. They said that the items which are supplied in a servicing are else called as a spare parts, which can be easily identifiable and which can be separately traceable. Hence, the billing shall be done independently. It means whatever the rate is applicable to the spare parts, let's say the spare part is applicable at the rate of 28% GST, charge for the spare parts at the rate of 28%. Generally, the services, as I said, that it is attracts generally 18%. So charge for the labor portion at the rate of 18%. So these are the circulars which are issued by the CBIC from time to time. Now I'm moving to the concept of a mixed supply. Mixed supply defined by class B of section 8. A mixed supply comprising of two or more supplies shall be treated as a supply of that particular supply which attracts highest rate of tax. Please understand, under the mixed supply also, the supply will be taken by two or more supplies. In the sense, here also supply will be done with a combination of a goods or a combination of a service or a combination of both goods and services. Now we need to understand why again a new concept called a mixed supply. When we have already the concept of a composite supply, why should we have the concept of a mixed supply? Now we have to interpret mixed supply means two or more individual supplies of goods or services or a combination thereof made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person for a single price, where such supply does not constitute a composite supply. It means when a supply is not a composite supply, we already discussed about a composite supply where there must be a principal supply and it must be a naturally bundled. If those conditions are not satisfied for a particular supply, then it will fall under mixed supply. Each of these supplies can be supplied separately and is not dependent on another. It means even the supplies, whatever the supplies made by a supplier in a combination, those can be separated those can be independently supplied to the end users. And even by removing each supply, this will not impact on other supplies. Also, the individual supplies are independent each other and are not naturally bundled. Again, once again, I'm coming back to the definition. A mixed supply comprising of 2 or more supplies shall be treated as a supply of that particular supply which attracts highest rate of tax. Then, coming back to the tax rate, what tax rate will be levied for a mixed supply? For a mixed supply, please understand, when a supply is taken with a mixed supply, a combination of a goods, then we need to see out of the combination of a goods or services or both, the supply which attracts the highest rate of tax, that rate will be applicable to the whole of the supply. Look at some examples. A Diwali gift box consisting of a canned foods, sweets, chocolates, cakes, dry fruits, aerated drink, and fruit juices supplied for a single price, which is called as a mixed supply, because these items can be supplied independently, which is not interdependent on each other. It means the canned food or the sweets or chocolates, cakes, dry fruits, in the normal course of the business, we can get it independently and separately. Now we need to check what is the tax rate will be applicable. We need to understand what is the tax rate for the canned food, what is the tax rate for the sweets, what is the tax rate for the chocolates, cakes, dry fruits, and aerated drink and fruit juice. By considering all the rates, the highest rate which falls, the highest rate of a category of item, which category of item falls highest tax rate, the tax rate shall be applicable to the whole of the supply. Let's come to my example. Since aerated drinks have the highest GST tax rate at the rate of 28%, and 28% will be applied on the entire gift box. Even, let's say even the sweets attracts, let's example, say 12%, even though, because the supply has taken place in a mixed supply, it means it is a combination of all the things sold in a gifted box. Hence, the whole of the gift box will be liable to GST at the rate of 28%. Coming to the second example, a shopkeeper selling a storage water bottles along with a refrigerator. Bottles and the refrigerators can easily be priced and sold independently and are not naturally bundled. So such supplies can be treated as a mixed supplies. Then when a shopkeeper selling a storage water bottles along with a refrigerator, this can be easily separable. This can be easily identifiable, which can be purchased in the outside market separately. Then let's understand, being the supplier is making as a mixed supply, we need to identify what are the tax rates which are applicable to independent items. Say example, storage of water bottles which attracts 12%. Storage of water bottles attracts 12%, whereas a refrigerator attracts 18%. Then we need to check, being the supply has taken place in a mixed supply, combination of both the things has taken place, and the highest tax rate shall be considered. The highest tax rate in this example is refrigerator, which attracts 18%. So for the entire supply, the GST will be levied at the rate of 18%. Even though the bottle suffers with a lesser rate called as a 12%, we have to charge the highest rate to the particular supply. Coming to the another scenario, a lively example which I am giving here. A house is given on a rent through a single rental deed. A single rental deed, house is given for a rent. Single rental deed, the house is given for a rent. One floor which is to be used as a residence, and other for housing as a printing press. Printing press means it is a commercial purpose. At a lump sum rent amount. Such renting for the two different purposes is not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Such supplies are called as a mixed supply. Correct or not? If this supply is not naturally bundled, it means I have 2 floors of a house. A first floor I can give for a residence, and another floor I can give to any other purpose. So independent rental agreement can also be executed in the normal course of a practice. But what the SSC has done in this scenario, he has executed a single rental agreement. One floor given for a residence purpose, another floor is given for a commercial purpose. Then we need to check what GST will be, what is the rate of the GST will be applicable. Please understand, renting of a immobile property which is used for the residential purpose, which is exempted from the GST as per the notification number 12/2017. Whereas renting of a immobile property for a commercial purpose or a commercial objective, then it which is suffers with a 18% GST. Then we need to understand, because the landlord has given both the properties under a single deed, it means he supplied both the things in a mixed supply. In a combination, he made a supply. Whenever the concept of a mixed supply comes into the picture, we have to check the independent GST rates and which one is what is the highest GST in that supply. We need to charge the same.
Kedar, can
Yes,
I
sir.
supplement something here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Here the subject matter of is what is the taxable supply. We should not bother about the exemptions, right?
Okay, sir.
Here the subject matter of supply is renting of immobile property. Oh, that is a different subject, and exemption is a different subject. Okay, whether it is given for commercial purpose or residential purpose, the taxability, what is the principal supply or rate which is to be applied is different. Whether it is commercial or exempted, it is 18%. However, exemption is provided because of that one, it is given an exemption. So, to the extent of my understanding, it is to be think in different fashion.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Coming to the next example, a buy detergent get bucket free. There is a things which in order to increase the sale, in order to attract the households, sometimes the companies will give an advertisement or else give a sales called as a buy a detergent, get a bucket free. In this example, the detergent suffers with a 28% rate of a GST, and a bucket is, let's example, take a plastic products attracts at a 12%. Being this is a combination which is given by a supplier to the end user, then the highest rate of the both the supplies will be considered. Being it is a detergent as it suffers with a 28%, and the supply is sold the goods in a mixed supply in a combination form, and the entire detergent and a bucket shall be liable at a 28% GST. As I said, the items which has the highest rate of a tax in a mixed supply will be considered. Now, how to determine if a particular supply is a mixed supply? What are the parameters? The supply should not be a composite supply. Yes, this is a principal requirement. Once it is not a composite supply, obviously it will come under a mixed supply. Second parameter, supplies are not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Correct? It means the items can be sold independently or separately. If all these three conditions are satisfied, then we can call this supply as a mixed supply. Now I would like to give a difference between a composite supply versus mixed supply. As we understand, composite supply consists of two or more supplies which are naturally bundled in conjunction with each other, one of which is a principal supply. Tax liability shall be the rate of the principal supply. Tax liability shall be the rate of the principal supply. Example, charger supplied along with a mobile phone. When we purchase a new mobile, along with the mobile, the supplier is going to provide a charger. Take an example, the mobile suffers with a 28% GST, charger suffers with 18%. Then, and being this is supplied in a composite manner or a combination manner, then we need to think about what is the principal supply. The principal supply.
Okay. నేను చూసాను ఇప్పుడే మీ మెయిల్ వచ్చింది.
The principal supply in this example is a mobile. For purchase of a mobile only, that
Yes,
is the
continue.
charger which is giving
Yes,
an
మీరు
ancillary item.
data గీత ఏదో అడిగారు.
Ancillary item. Then the
Okay,
charger.
Kedar, 1 second.
Yes,
Pankaj
sir.
bhai, you are disturbing the audience. Please mute your.
నాకు
Pankaj bhai, please
Yeah,
mute.
sorry. I'm
Kedar, please continue.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So the end user is purchasing a mobile, whereas in return he is also getting a charger. In this scenario, the principal supply will be called as a mobile phone, and the tax rate will be applicable. Whatever the tax which is applicable to the mobile, the same tax rate will be applicable to the charger also. This is a concept of a composite supply. Coming to the mixed supply, here also the mixed supply consists of a 2 or more supply common. And the important point here we need to understand, which are not naturally bundled. It means it can be supplied independently or separately, and the tax liability shall be the rate applicable to the supply that attracts the highest rate of a tax. Example, a gift bag comprising of a chocolates, candies, sweets and balloons. In my already given this example, we need to identify what is the highest tax rate and take the highest tax rate and apply to the whole of the gift box or apply to the whole of the supply and charge from the end user. This is the difference between a composite supply and mixed supply. I would like to touch upon few things about our CGST Act 2017. It specifies 3 schedules. That is, Schedule 1, activities to be treated as a supply even if made without consideration. Schedule 2, activities to be treated as a supply of a goods or supply of a service. Schedule 3 speaks about activities or transactions which shall be treated neither as a supply of goods nor supply of a services. Here my point of discussion here is Schedule 2. It means what certain activities to be treated as a supply of a goods or supply of a services. By virtue of the act, by virtue of the Schedule 2, paragraph 6, the law is clearly said the following two elements or else the following 2 activities shall be treated as a supply of a service under the composite supplies. Under the composite supplies, irrespective of the proportion of the goods or service, we have to consider the following activity shall be supply of a service only. Take an example. The first one is in the paragraph 6 of Schedule 2. The first element is works contract. Generally, the works contract involves an element of a goods and services supplied together in order to perform the works contract. Even though we need not to worry and we need not to bother about what is the portion of the goods and what is the portion of the service, straightforward, based on the Schedule 2, we can decide the entire works contract as a supply of service. Once it is a supply of a service, generally it will attract the rate of 18% GST. The second important element which is defined in the Schedule 2, that is called restaurant services. Generally, the restaurant services which involves supply of a food and serving, it means a service, which means a combination of a goods and service. Straight away, the Schedule 2 says about it shall be considered as supply of a service, and there is a specific rate which is given through a notification for a restaurant services at the rate of 5% under composition scheme. Now we need to understand what is the time of supply. What is the time of supply we need to understand for a composite supply and for the mixed supply. In case of a composite supply, before addressing the time of supply, the time of supply is one of the important factor to levy the tax, when to pay the tax, when to charge the tax, and when to pay the tax to the government. Time of supply is one of the important aspect. In the subsequent course of sessions, the next speaker is going to discuss about the time of supply. Now we need to understand what kind of a provision shall be applicable in case of a time of supply. In case of a composite supply, if the principal supply is a service, in case of a composite supply, As I said that in a composite supply consists of a supply of a goods and services, we need to determine what is the principal supply. If the principal supply is a service, then adopt and apply the provisions relating to time of supply of a services. Type of supply of a services, sir. If the principal supply is a goods, adopt the provisions of a time of supply of a goods. Coming to the, in case of a mixed supply, what is the time of supply? What kind of a time of supply provisions will applicable? Under the mixed supply, one and only the parameter we need to check what is the highest rate of a supply. If the highest rate of supply attracts service, apply the provisions related to time of supply of services. If the highest rate of supply is a goods, apply the time of supply of a goods. It means whatever the provisions related to the goods, that say the provisions of the time of supply shall be applicable. Sir, can you launch the audience poll?
Because I could not get the question. I checked it with Satish also. He said he's also
Harikishan,
not.
sir. I stayed with Harikishan, sir.
Haribhai, can you just WhatsApp the question to me so that I can launch? Hello?
Yeah, yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Haribhai, if you can. Okay, Kedar, you continue. The moment it comes, I launch.
Definitely, sir. I said to Harikishan, sir, email.
Yeah.
I am
Haribhai,
not.
you can just forward it to my mail ID.
Sorry to say, I am not that much technical. I have to take somebody's help. Okay.
No problem. मैं आपको टेस्ट मेल डाल देता हूँ, आप रिप्लाई कर दो.
WhatsApp में.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, Kedar, continue.
Yeah. It is already marked to Pankaj.
It's not delivered, sir. Please share it again.
Okay. Okay. Satish, go on.
So, as a part of today's agenda, I'm entering into the third topic that is called a composition levy scheme. Till now, we discussed about section 8, which dealt about the composite supply and mixed supply. We have seen. Now we are going to see about the composition levy scheme. Section 10 of the Central GST Act, like a CGST Act 2017 and Chapter 2 of the CGST Rules 2017, deals with the composition levy scheme. A composition levy scheme. Please understand what is the meaning of a composition levy scheme. A composition levy scheme is a very simple, hassle-free compliance, suitable for the small taxpayers, and it is a voluntary optional scheme. It means the composition scheme is very simple. Even a layman also can file a returns under the composition scheme. It means the cumbersome exercise of like availing ITC, what kind of ITC we can avail, what kind of ITC we cannot avail, how to pay the tax, when to pay the tax, what amount of GST shall be collected from the buyer. All these things are not at all there in the under the composition scheme. Under the composition scheme, this is a simple and hassle-free compliance which is more suitable to the taxpayers, like small taxpayers. They can opt voluntarily this scheme. Now we need to understand to whom it is applicable. A composition levy scheme is applicable to a registered person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year does not exceed the threshold limit. He may opt for the tax. He may opt to pay tax under composition scheme. Now there are the set of parameters with the set of words which are used in the definition. That is called a registered person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year does not exceed the threshold limit. We need to understand here the three key terms. The first one is aggregate turnover. Please understand the concept of aggregate turnover is very much relevant in the GST Act. Whenever we see any notification, the GST Act or else the CBIC uses the word aggregate turnover. Even recently issued notification like notification number 3132, like the turnover, based on the turnover criteria, they have given extension time limit for the GSTR 3B. They used the word called aggregate turnover. Please understand. It is not a turnover. It is called an aggregate turnover. one has to be very careful while interpreting a word under the GST. Now look at what is the meaning of a aggregate turnover. The aggregate turnover is defined in the class 6 of section 2 to CGST Act 2017. Aggregate turnover is computed on all India basis for a person having a same PAN. It is sum of value of all outward supplies falling in the following 4 categories. It means aggregate turnover shall be computed in all India basis under the same PAN. If a business entity has a multiple business locations in a multiple states, then we have to club together the turnover, the following outward supplies, the club together all the supplies, and we need to derive the aggregate turnover. The first point here, what are the things we need to add? The first element is a taxable supplies. The second one is a exempted supplies. Next one is export of goods or services or both. Commonly in GST parlance, we call it a zero rated supply and interstate supplies. If all together but excludes the value of inward supplies on which tax is paid by a person on reverse charge mechanism basis, like certain supplies which is liable for the reverse charge mechanism, these are called certain inward supplies, like a security services, legal fee. Those are the things which are there. Those attracts for the reverse charge mechanism. It means the recipient, he himself has to pay the GST to the government. And it also excludes taxes like CGST, SGST, IGST, including cess paid under the GST law. It means the aggregate turnover is a summation of all the taxable supplies, exempt supplies, zero rate supplies, interstate supplies, excluding inward supplies which are liable for the RCM, and it excludes taxes under GST law. This is a concept of an aggregate turnover. Then we need to understand what is the threshold limit in order to applicable of a composition levy scheme. Please understand the threshold limit which is given by the Act in case of a goods. The aggregate turnover does not exceed in the relevant previous year rupees 1.50 crores. Whereas 75 lakhs for a special category states. Therefore, special category states which are given 9 special category states, northeastern states which are given as a special category states. For them, the applicability only 75 lakhs. Whereas the rest of the country, this is the threshold limit which is given as 1.50 crores. In case of a services, the aggregate turnover should not exceed rupees 50 lakhs in a pan-India basis. Please understand, both the turnovers are a pan-India basis, 1.5 crores or let's say 50 lakhs. Even the service provider also can opt for a composition scheme. Now, what are the benefits of a composition scheme? As I said, that the scheme is a very simple. It is easy compliance as no elaborate accounts and records need to be maintained. We need not maintain any accounts under a taxpayer chooses this option. He doesn't require to maintain any books of accounts which are prescribed by the GST Act. Again,
Kedarnath,
yes, sir.
I would like to put supplement some issue with respect to aggregate turnover. Please
Okay,
bear
sir.
with me, right?
Sure. Okay.
It's important. Normally, there are taxable supplies are there by way of forward charge and reverse charge. Both the things are there. So most of the peoples are confusing. In the WhatsApp groups I am checking, because of with this forum I would like to clarify, right? There are forward charge and reverse charge, both are the ways there, right? In the aggregate turnover definition given, reverse charge is there. Whatever the outward supplies are different, the input supplies are different. Sometimes input supplies may be chargeable, right? For the purpose of calculation of aggregate turnover, whatever the input services taken and paying reverse charge should not be considered. And it is not to be interpreted in such a manner. Suppose supplies are making by us and reverse charge somebody has to pay, that to be considered as a aggregate turnover. And this is to clarify because this is a basic one. So most of the circulation is happening in WhatsApp group regarding this issue, right? There are two types of supplies are there. Supplies made by us, supplies received by us. right? Aggregate turnover in definition given reverse charge mechanism supplies is that whatever the output supplies to be considered as the aggregate turnover. So sometimes due to reverse charge mechanism, we are paying the taxes. So that should not be part and parcel of the aggregate turnover. That was the intention of the aggregate turnover. So most of the people are misinterpreting, and since because when we are paying reverse charge mechanism, it is to be taxed. So that is not the way to think. I would like to clarify to each and everyone, those who are the participants. Right, proceed.
Okay, sir, thank you. So the benefits of a composition scheme: EG compliance has no elaborate accounts and records to be maintained. A fixed percentage on the turnover. Again, we need not to see the number of pages for the tax rates which are applicable for the GST for each element of it, like whether it suffers with 5%, 12%, 18%, or 28%. A fixed percentage which is given based on the turnover, and a simple returns, that is a quarterly return, need to be filed by a taxpayer, and the payment of a tax shall be made quarterly. Whereas in case of a regular taxpayers, they have to file the monthly GST or 3B, and monthly returns they have to file. In case of composition scheme, the taxpayer has an option given that he can file the return and he can pay the tax quarterly basis. In order to avoid the composition levy scheme, registration under GST law is a mandatory. Registration under GST law is a compulsory for opting the composition scheme. Suppose a person applies for a fresh registration under Rule 8 of CGST Rules 2017, he may opt the scheme by furnishing the details in the Part B of Form GST REG 01. It means by applying for a GST registration, the portal itself asks, are you applying for a registration under a composition scheme or a regular scheme? If a person straightforward from the day one onwards, he wants to go for a composition levy scheme, and is just starting a new business, he estimates that his turnover may not cross 1.5 crores in the relevant financial year, or he can straight away, he can choose the option is given as a composition levy scheme, and he can go for this scheme. There are certain implications and conditions which are imposed by the law under the composition levy scheme. Upon exercising the scheme, the taxpayer cannot issue a taxable invoice.
Kedar, 1 second. I am part of the academic only. Now clients come to many of us. Now what type of clients you can advise them to be in the composite scheme under any circumstances where we can directly tell people to be in composite scheme?
Yes, sir. This composition scheme is mostly useful for like a small shops, small vendors will be there, right? Like a stationery shop, or else a Xerox shop, or else these are the people where instead of taking a cumbersome exercise by filing a monthly returns, maintaining of a records, books of accounts and everything, they can go for this one. Like a small taxpayers, like we can say, as I said, they're stationery, or else there are some businesses, certain specific businesses. Even the law is prescribed certain businesses they cannot adopt for a composition scheme. I'm going to handle after some time. That means all kind of a business we can go for a composition scheme subject to our threshold limit of the aggregate turnover in the relevant previous financial year.
I would like to supplement to Pankaj to query. Here the subject matter is we have to calculate what is the composition rate, 1%, in case of services, 2.5%, 2.5%. What is the margin involved in that one? And if you multiply that margin with the tax rate and this base rate, you compare both the things. If it is beneficial to them, apart from compliance part is different story. I am explaining the financial part. So what is, suppose for example, you purchased for 10 rupees and you are selling for 20 rupees. Let us take an example. It is a 5% rate of goods, right? And on that 10 rupees, what is the 5% means how much it will take? 50 paisa, right? What is the input tax available on 10 rupees? That you have to calculate. On this one, margin you have to calculate. Whether any net benefit is there, you have to do the cost benefit analysis. Even though small one, if you strictly speaking, technically to guide our one, the rate of tax is there and profit margin both will influence apart from compliance job.
Yeah, but I was just checking that input credit is not available, no? So if I am into a business where not many of my clients are charging GST, then I think it's better to be under this composite scheme.
Yes.
That way also, so instead of looking at my own profit, my own thing, if I'm generally dealing with people who are not charging GST, then I think it should be a better thing, no?
Yes.
Right, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My first
Compliance is one part and the calculation, arithmetical calculation is second part. Both we have to see.
My first doubt in GST in my life. Thanks, Kedar.
So yeah, okay.
Right. So what are the basic implications and conditions under composition levy scheme? Upon exercising the scheme, the taxpayer cannot issue taxable invoice. It means he cannot collect the tax from the buyer or as a recipient. Once he is not in a position to issue the taxable invoice, he cannot collect the tax. He shall issue a bill of supply in lieu of a taxable invoice. Bill of supply he has to issue. Pay all taxes on purchases, including taxes to be paid on reverse charge mechanism. He has to pay all taxes to his supplier by making the purchases, including reverse charge mechanism. If any supplies, inward supplies which attracts the reverse charge mechanism, even though he is a composition dealer, he has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. As I said, that security services or else lawyer services, if he avails, he has to pay a reverse charge mechanism tax to the government. And he cannot claim the input tax credit on his purchases. This is the very, very dangerous thing, that he cannot, whatever the purchases he makes and whatever the tax he pays to his supplier, that amount he cannot claim as an input tax credit or ITC. And he cannot claim and he cannot collect. That is the most dangerous elements under the composition levy scheme. And what the composition scheme says, whatever the tax you pay, that cannot be availed as a ITC. And whatever the tax rates prescribed under the composition levy scheme, that shall be borne by that shall be bear by the composition dealer from his own pocket. And he cannot collect the GST from his customers. And he has to mention the words composition taxable person on every notice board or signboard displayed at the prominent place at every place of business. He has to give. Please understand, it is the responsibility of a registered dealer. Either he may be a regular dealer or it's a composition dealer. He has to display his registration certificate prominently visible. He should be displayed at his business premises or else his factory or a warehouse or a godown. This is one of the important area. The department may come and verify at any point of time. They have every right to levy the penalty up to 10,000 rupees for non-displaying of a GST certificate at our business premises. And in case of a composition taxable person, on every notice board or a signboard, he has to display saying that he is a composition taxable person. As I said, that the composition dealer shall issue bill of supply in lieu of a tax invoice. As a composition dealer, one of the prerequisite conditions that he should not issue tax invoice. It has to issue bill of supply. What is the meaning of a bill of supply? A bill of supply is a document which contains all particulars similar to the tax invoice, except that GSTN of the buyer and the supplier. It consists of all the parameters except the GST number of the buyer and supplier, and the element of a tax element will not be considered. He has to mention the words in each and every bill of supply. He has to mention the words saying that composition taxable person not eligible to collect the tax on supplies at the top of every bill of supply. It shall be written at the top of his bill of supply. Option. How to exercise the option of a composition levy scheme. The option shall be exercised before commencement of the financial year. It means if a taxpayer wish to convert from regular scheme to composition levy scheme prior to commencement of the business, prior to commencement of before commencement of the financial year, he has to exercise the option by giving CMP 02 form to the supplier, submitting the GST CMP 02 form to the department. Second important point here, once he has opted the composition levy scheme, if the threshold limit exceeds, immediately he should, the next day itself, he has to immediately exit from the scheme, and he shall be liable to collect the tax under section 9 subsection 1, and is liable to issue tax invoice from the subsequent supply. If he fails to do, he will be penalized under the provisions of the act. Now, the GST law under section 5 to section 10, the following persons are not eligible to apply for a composition levy scheme. For those, please see. The first one is a casual taxable person. A casual taxable person is a person who occasionally undertakes the supplies and he doesn't have a fixed place of a business. He is not eligible to apply for a composition levy scheme. Second one, a non-resident taxable person. A non-resident taxable person who doesn't have a fixed place of business in India and he is not a resident in India, he is also not eligible to take the composition levy scheme. Third important point, a person engaged in the providing interstate supply of goods, he is also not eligible to take the composition levy scheme. It means the Act clearly says that once you are a composition dealer, you need to supply the goods within the state. It is called as a intrastate supplies. You cannot engage the supplies of interstate supplies. Next one, a person engaged in the supply of non-taxable goods, that is goods which are not taxable under GST law. It means the goods which are not liable to tax, he cannot engage, like exempted goods are not, he should not, the person who is engaged with the exempted goods also is not eligible to adopt for a composition levy scheme. And electronic commerce operator, e-commerce operator we call as, he is also not eligible to adopt for a composition levy scheme. The goods held in the stock by him on the appointed day have not been purchased. It means the person who possesses his own goods, and then also he cannot adopt for a composition levy scheme. Again, a person engaged in the manufacturing of a goods notified under section 10 to E of the CGST Act, if a person who manufactures certain goods, certain specified goods, they also is not eligible to apply for a composition levy scheme. The following goods which are notified by the government on the recommendation of the GST Council, for which composition scheme is not applicable. Please see, the first one is ice cream and other edible ice, whether or not containing coca. It means if a manufacturer who involves or engaged in a supply of a ice cream, like a Quality Walls, I'll say whatever it may be, the brands, whatever it may be, they cannot come into a composition levy scheme. And apart from before coming to the composition levy scheme, we have to consider about aggregate turnover, the threshold limit. And next one, the person who is engaged with the supply of a pan masala is also not eligible to composition levy scheme. The next one, tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. The person who engaged with the tobacco products also is not eligible to apply for a composition levy scheme. What are the conditions which may render a person ineligible for the scheme? A person is ineligible for the scheme if he wrongly opts for the scheme. First thing, a person is ineligible for the scheme if he wrongly opts for the scheme without availing, like say example, without, suppose he is making interstate supplies without proper knowledge, he applied for the composition levy scheme. Then he is ineligible. The proper officer have a heavy right to reject his application. He can also serve a so-cause notice saying that your composition levy scheme is I am rejecting. Next one, his turnover exceeds threshold limit of rupees 1.5 crores. In case of a 9 northeastern states, that is 75 lakhs in a preceding financial year. As soon as the turnover exceeds the threshold limit, the composition dealer shall exist from the scheme and he has to come to the regular scheme. Last point, he contravenes eligibility criteria or any of the conditions of the scheme. Sir,
I'm ready with the questions. You want me to start
yes,
the
sir.
poll?
Yeah.
Just one last. I'm just typing yes, no, and I'll close. You want me to start from the beginning, or you want
No,
me to
you ignore the
only
first question.
composite
and
levy
supply.
scheme?
Yes, sir.
No, composite levy scheme only, or earlier
Remaining two
questions
also. Earlier questions also, please.
Yeah, 1 second. A hotel provides.
Yes, sir. Please. I
Very
request all the
question,
members.
45
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah. Please answer this question. A hotel provides 4 days, 3 nights package wherein the facility of a breakfast is providing along with the room accommodation. Whether it will be treated as a composite supply or a mixed supply.
The panelists cannot vote, so Haribhai, you, Kedar, me, and Satish cannot vote.
Yes, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm ending the polling. The results also I'm sharing, Kedar.
Please, sir.
Composite supply, 75% of the people, 27 say composite supply. And see, the mixed supply is 9%. You can give the answer. And if you go with the majority, you have to also say why it is not mixed supply.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. So always there is a rule called majority prevails. Wherever it is. So in this scenario also the majority prevails. Yes, it is a composite supply and it cannot be treated as a mixed supply. Please understand, a hotel provides a 4 days, 3 nights package wherein a facility of a breakfast is provided. A breakfast is an ancillary supply in this example, whereas the hotel accommodation is called as a principal supply. So hotel accommodation as well as a breakfast in combination, the hotelier is supplying to the guests. Once it is for having a breakfast, no one is going to book a hotel accommodation. Am I correct or not? So here the accommodation plays a vital role and it is a naturally bundled. The hotel accommodation as well as a breakfast. If you see many of the hotels, if you go to Kerala or else wherever it is in many of the states and many of the hotels, they provide hotel accommodation, a complimentary they will give as a breakfast they will give. So it involves a combination of a supply of a service that is called a hotel accommodation service. Second one is a supply of a goods. When this is a combination they have supplied and this is a principal, then it is a naturally bundled. Amongst the naturally bundled, one supply will be called as a principal supply. The principal supply is called as a hotel accommodation. Hence, it will be treated as a composite supply.
Pankaj, I would like to supplement his views. Can I?
Please.
Yeah. Here the subject matter of the query is hotel accommodation coupled with the breakfast. And no separate price is charged. This is the fact of the case. Okay. Here, the discussion for subject matter whether you used that breakfast or you are not used for that breakfast, you are liable to be paid.
Yes, sir.
So there is no option provided for the buyer to use or not to use. It is a compulsion. Conjunction with it together. What is that conjunction? Naturally bundled. Every hotel is doing the similar fashion like that one. And if you don't have an option, you have to take both together. There is no facility provided. Third, whether you used or not used, you are supposed to pay the entire fare. Right? And it is in the ordinary course of the business. Normally what happens, this is in the ordinary course of the book. Right? This is with respect to 3, 4, 5-star hotels. Right? Whereas in case of small hotels, this facility is not available. Okay. So mixed supply people also correct and composite supply people also correct. In both the ways, it depends upon the facts of the each case. Right?
So we will launch the next question, which is again on the based on the type of polling.
Sure.
Okay, I think it's a good fun. The question is
Yes, sir.
again here: a toothpaste company has offered the scheme of free toothbrush along with the toothpaste. What type of supply it is? Again, the interesting part is that we are getting both the answers, Haribhai. The number is increasing on the top and the bottom. Acha, I'd also like to tell everyone that it's a single choice question. I cannot click on both mixed and composite. I can't be correct. And Srinivasan said you are not getting a poll. Like everyone, it should be on the. Srinivasan sir, just check your poll thing, sir, because I'm also not very good here. I will try. Okay, I'm stopping the polling. And excellent was first time. I think a lot of explanation is required by both of you. I never thought it would be like this. It's exactly 25 people saying composite and 25 people saying mix.
Then we have to apply Duckworth-Lewis method.
Huh?
Duckworth-Lewis method.
Yeah, you have to apply Duckworth-Lewis now. Over to you, Satish bhai. So that's how the third empire has also come. Now I think I'll first Kedar,
Yes, sir.
then both of you, your comments and your answer.
Definitely, sir. So the question says a toothpaste company has offered the scheme of a free toothbrush along with the toothpaste. Here we need to check about whether it is a naturally bundled or not naturally bundled. That is the first implication. In order to call a naturally bundled, it cannot be separable. In order to say it is not a naturally bundled, it means, again I'm coming back to my slide, my previous slide, for better understanding. Yes, please look into this. Always we need to try to see when there is a combination of two things. Either the combination may be a combination of a goods or a combination of a service or a combination of goods and services. Here, yes, it is a combination of a goods that is called toothbrush and toothpaste. We need to check whether it is a naturally bundled or not naturally bundled. We need to check. If it is a naturally bundled, then it will be called as a composite supply. If it is not naturally bundled, then it is called as a mixed supply. Here my first question is, can I purchase a toothbrush separately in the outside market or not? Yes,
You can.
I can purchase. Even I can purchase a toothbrush separately. Even I can purchase a toothpaste also separately in the open market. Hence, when the supply is separable, and I'm coming back to mixed supply. Mixed supply means two or more individual supplies of goods or services or a combination thereof made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person for a single price. Where such supply does not constitute a composite supply, each of these supplies can be supplied separately. This is the prominent word, separately, and is not dependent on any other. Also, the individual supplies are independent of each other and are not naturally bundled. Once it is in each one, like a toothpaste and toothbrush, it can be separable and separate independently. The value can be identifiable. Then it will be called as a mixed supply, and it cannot be termed as a composite supply. Sir, over to you, sir. Satish, sir.
Great. Haribhai, you want to add anything? Unmute.
Wait, sir.
I concur with him.
Yeah, I think he has done it. Excellent job. I think Kedar, with the way you have just gone through your presentation and all. So I think the polling is becoming interesting. So I'll just go with two more.
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. You can.
Yeah. A composition dealer has multiple GST registrations in various states under same PAN. Can he choose the composition scheme in some states and regular scheme in other states?
So this is a question which is out of my explanation. After the polling, I am going to explain.
Okay. Sorry, then I'll just.
No problem, no problem, no problem, sir. You keep it, no issue. No issue, sir.
Yeah, but I think pretty unanimity is coming here. So
Okay.
I'm stopping the poll. I'm sharing the results also. Okay, only yes is 2 people and no is 44. So I think now I leave it.
Majority is prevails, sir. Again, majority. The concept of a majority.
Thank you. Huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Please understand what the law says, clearly says. The section 10 specifically says that the composition levy scheme is considered based on the aggregate turnover. Again, I'm coming back to my slide. In order to apply the composition levy scheme, a registered person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year does not exceed the threshold limit, he may opt for a composition scheme. Then, when the law is strictly considering about aggregate turnover in order to applicable of a composition levy scheme, it means if a taxpayer wants to opt for a composition scheme in one state and a regular scheme in another state, it cannot be possible. If he wishes to go for a composition scheme, then he has to go for all his registrations under one PAN. He has to go for a composition scheme, or else he can go for a regular scheme for all his PAN numbers. It cannot be possible that some places or else some states I wish to go for a composition, in some states I wish to go for a regular scheme. It cannot be possible. The law is clearly says about this. Pankaj sir, the last question.
Yeah, I'm just putting the last question.
Okay, sir.
One second. The comment of Satish has come. Satish, any comment? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Can the taxpayer shift from composition dealer to regular dealer scheme and vice versa? Hi, it's again going.
Yes, and sir,
Both given as an option as a yes.
Yes.
Both options are yes only.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. The top one is yes and the bottom one is no. I will just end polling and okay, the top one, I'll relaunch the polling, sir. Sorry, I don't think I can change. The top one is yes, the bottom one is no, sir. The top one is yes, the bottom one is no. I'm sorry for the mistake. Yeah, I think 30 seconds. The question was, can a taxpayer shift from composition dealer to a regular dealer scheme? And someone paper leaked this question. I think Vishal wants to say. No, Vishal, it's not paper leaked. The examiner funked here. Okay, I'm just ending the polling and sharing the results. Can a taxpayer shift from composition dealer to a regular scheme and vice versa? 76% have said yes, and 24% have said no. And there could be a benefit of doubt given to 24% people also. But now you can just take the answer. But there will be some people who still believe it's a no. So why no?
Definitely, sir.
Is what you have to say yes.
So again, here also the majority prevails. Yes, the taxpayer can shift from a composition scheme to regular scheme. As I said in my earlier slides, please, I'm coming back to my slides once again. Please look into this one option. Once the threshold limit exceeds, once the threshold limit exceeds, as I said, the threshold limit is 1.5 crores for a dealer in a engaged with a goods. Once the threshold limit exceeds, the taxpayer should exist from the scheme. The law itself clearly says that once your threshold limit is exceeded, suppose I have started my business in this is the first year, and last year my turnover was 50 lakhs. this year I'm doing much very well. My taxable turnover in this year itself, it is increased, gone up to exceeded 1.5 crore. The next day itself, the next moment itself, I should exist from the scheme, because
maybe a small typo there. It's not
Okay.
exits from that. It should be exit. Yes,
Exit.
T
Oh,
as
yeah.
to-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, typo mistake. Yeah, yes, sir. The taxpayer should exit from the scheme. So please understand, a taxpayer can convert from regular scheme to composition scheme, and from composition to regular scheme according to his wish, according to the certain specific guidelines or conditions laid down in the act. Now, what are the things he has to follow? Suppose if a taxpayer wish to come from regular scheme to composition scheme, then yes, he can come to a regular scheme to composition scheme. Suppose the such scheme he can be availed or adopted prior to commencement of the financial year. Regular scheme to composition scheme by filing a GST CMP 02. GST REG 06 is nothing but is a regular taxpayer. This is a registration. He will be awarded a registration certificate under REG 06. He will be called as a regular dealer. And by filing GST CMP 02 prior to the commencement of the financial year, then is eligible to, or else he can be converted from the regular scheme to composition scheme. As soon as he files GST CMP 02, he has to file a GST ITC 03. This is GST ITC 03 is a form which is whatever the ITC available in his credit ledger. Once he moves to the composition scheme, he is not collect the tax and is not eligible to utilize his ITC, or is not eligible to take the ITC. Hence, what the law is telling, whatever the ITC available in his credit ledger, it should be reversed within 60 days from the date of commencement of the financial year. The next one, if a dealer is already in the composition scheme, he wants to switch to regular scheme. Yes, it can also be possible. If a dealer is a composition scheme, like if his threshold limit of 1.5 crore is exceeded, yes, he has to switch over from the composition to regular scheme. Or else, he wishes to go for a regular scheme by availing ITC as well as by collecting the tax from the his buyers, then also he can go. Then composition scheme to regular scheme, the SSC has to file GST CMP 04. This is a form which shall be filed. At any time the SSC can convert from composition to regular scheme, whereas regular to composition, he has to wait for a before commencement of a financial year. That is the important thing. Whereas in case of a composition to regular scheme, the SSC, once the threshold limit is, today is the 1st January 2020, let's say today is 26th June 2020, my threshold limit of 1.5 crores is exceeded. The next moment itself, from tomorrow onwards, I can switch from composition to regular scheme by filing a GST CMP 04, as well as I have to file GST ITC 01. It means whatever the purchases which I made from the registered taxpayers and the non-registered taxpayers, and whatever the tax I paid to them, that amount I can claim as a input tax credit subject to processing of a taxable invoice from the suppliers. Then within 30 days of a conversion from composition to regular scheme, I have to file a GST ITC 01, and I can avail ITC, and I can utilize in my further and subsequent supplies. So the answer says yes, the SSC can switch over from composition to regular as well as regular to composition. And apart from this,
The only thing I would like to, Kedar, he should be eligible for the scheme when he want to shift from regular to composite. So ineligibility should not be there.
Exactly, sir.
Right,
Yes,
that's all.
yes. Yeah. Few more things I would like to address. There are the certain forms which are prescribed, the certain forms in the composition levy which are prescribed. That is called those forms which I am going to discuss. The first one is called as a GST CMP 01. CMP 01 is used for intimation to pay tax under section 10, that is called a composition levy. Please understand, GST CMP 01 is applicable only for those SSE who are registered under the erstwhile law. Erstwhile law in the sense, those who are registered for a VAT, service tax, and excise. And for them only that is applicable. Means again, this is also not active. Nowadays, it is not applicable also, GST CMP 01, because the appointed day is already gone. That is 1st July 2017. Prior to that only, this was active. The most important form in the composition levy scheme, that is called GST CMP 02. CMP 02, intimation to pay tax under section 10. Under section 10, that is called a composition levy for persons registered under the GST Act. Suppose a person wishes to switch over from the regular scheme to composition scheme, he has to furnish CMP 02. Please understand, as I said, that the CMP 02 shall be furnished before commencement of the financial year. Due to the COVID-19, the CMP 02 due date was extended up to 30th June 2020. Today we are in the 26th June, still 4 more days are there. If any of your clients wish to convert from a regular scheme to composition scheme, they can easily come to this scheme because the time limit of 4 more days is available still. Next one is GST CMP 03. This is also inactive. Intimation of details of stock on date of opting for composition levy only for persons registered under the existing law migrating on the appointed day. This is also inactive, no need to worry. The next one is GST CMP 04. Intimation or application for withdrawal from the composition levy. This is a very, very important form, CMP 04. As I said, that if the threshold limit of a taxpayer exceeded the 1.5 crore, then immediately he has to switch over from the composition to regular scheme. Then how he can convert? He has to give an intimation. He has to file an application with the department by furnishing a GST CMP 04. By furnishing the CMP 04, the proper officer will come to understand that the taxpayer wants to switch over from composition to regular scheme. Next one, GST CMP 04, notice for denial of option to pay tax under section 10. Sometimes the proper officer may serve a notice under CMP 05 saying that if the SSE or the taxpayer violated any of the conditions means, I already discussed with you the conditions like this is the scheme is not applicable, like a casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, the person who is engaged with interstate supply of goods, or a person who is engaged with exempted supply, or e-commerce operator. Suppose any of these persons has applied for the scheme, the system is automatically granted. Subsequently, the assessing officer come to know that this person is in contravention of the provisions of the Act, applied and used the concept of a composition levy scheme. Then the proper officer can serve a notice by issuing a CMP 05. Then once the CMP 05 is issued by the department, the SSE has to give a reply to the so-called notice under CMP 06, saying that under what contention he has applied. After that, receiving the reply from the SSE, the proper officer will scrutiny the reply, will verify the reply. If he feels that reply is satisfactory, he can accept. It means yes, the SSE can continue with the composition levy scheme. If the taxpayer feels that it is not acceptable, the reply is not satisfactory, he can give a rejection of a reply to the so-called notice, order of acceptance under CMP 07. Once he has given a order for rejection, immediately the taxpayer will fall into a regular scheme. That is then the last important form, that is called GST CMP 08. It speaks about statement for payment of a self-assessed tax or quarterly return. So the most important form under the composition levy scheme is CMP 08. The taxpayer has to file CMP 08 quarterly. This is it is a combination of a quarterly return and the payment of a tax. This form is very simple. One can easily this form can be filled. It doesn't contain much information. It will ask about very limited information to the taxpayer. Sir, is it visible, the PDF?
Yes, you can just open the form, it should be visible.
Yes, sir. Please look into this. The written form,
But
written name.
one second, are you able to open the form in your system?
Yes, sir, I am able to open.
Then again, no, actually it should be open and then you have to do share
Okay,
screen.
okay. Definitely, sir.
Stop screening, again share screen, again go back there. Yeah, now it has come.
Okay, sir, thank you. See, please look into this. The dashboard returns is a GST CMP 08. This is called a statement for payment of self-asset tax as well as this is a quarterly return. Please understand, this is the return for a period January to March. January to March, the financial year 1920. This means this is a Q4. Generally, the CMP 08 shall be filed within 18 days from the end of the quarter. Again, due to the COVID, this is also has been extended by the department. The extended due date is 7th July 2020. Please look into this form. It contains very limited information. It asks, the first one is outward supplies, including exempt supplies. Here it says about what is the value. Please, again, what is the central tax? Once we give the central tax, automatically it will take the state tax. It is disabled with the integrated tax because the reason behind this, the person who adopted for a composition levy scheme is not supposed to go for the interstate supplies. Once there is no interstate supplies, there is no concept of a IGST. So this composite supply, composition levy scheme is applicable only for a person who is handling interstate supplies only. Second one, as I said, that the person composition levy scheme dealer has to pay the RCM, inward supplies retracting the reverse charge, including import of his services. Only these two things only he has to fill the information, and if there is any delay, interest he has to pay and save and submit the return by making a payment through the net banking or modes which are prescribed by the Act. Again, one more important point I would like to address here. Now the question will arise, please look into this SSE. This SSE was initially from 7/7/2017 to 31/10/2017, the SSE was in regular scheme. Subsequently, 1st November 2017 to 25th 6 means till today, he is in composition dealer. Now please understand, whenever we are shifting from a regular to composition scheme, then if it is happened in between of a month, that is a very important aspect, in between of a month, because in this scenario, it is happened in the 1st November, there is no issue. From 1st November onwards, I can file with the CMP 08, that is a return, that return it can be filed. That is the important point. Suppose in between, like in month, suppose on 12th of January, I want to switch from regular scheme to composition scheme. Then what about up to 12 days, what I need to do? From 12th to 31st of January, what I need to do? The law clearly says that up to 12th for the 12 days, you have to file GSTR1 as well as GSTR3B. Again, from the balance days, you have to pay, you have to raise the bill of supply, and you have to pay with CMP 08. It means the combination of returns shall be foundation for a specific month. Yes.
Kedar, I'm sorry to disturb you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now it is the time to give to the moderator for his summing up and
Yeah.
question answers to be taken place.
Sir, I will take 2 more minutes, sir. Okay?
Already
Sure,
you have taken 15 minutes.
No.
Okay.
Carry on.
Definitely, sir. I will take 2 more minutes, and then one more slide is left. I will finish up. Sir, please, can you confirm that new another PDF is visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. In detail,
Yes.
I have written, and this is a last slide from my side. I would like to rush through this one. almost most of the things I have handled already in my PPT. For a benefit of one more time, I'm giving GST CMP 01. This is, as I said, for old act, rest of act, they have to file. Again, the GST CMP 02, those who are registered under the GST and opt for the composition fee, this shall be given the time limit prior to commencement of the financial year. The SSA has to furnish. Next one. And he has to file GST ITC 03 within 60 days of commencement of the financial year in order to reverse, because he's converting from the regular scheme to composition scheme. Again, the notification number 30/2020 CT for the financial year 2021, the time limit is extended up to 30th June 2020 for filing of CMP 02, as well as for filing of ITC 03 is given extended up to 31st July 2020. Next, GST CMP 03 for old law, CMP 04, intimation or application for withdrawal from composition levy within 7 days of such occurrence of the event. Because my threshold limit is exceeded, within 7 days I have to intimate to the department. I will come to, I should intimate, and immediately I will come to the regular scheme, and I have to charge a taxable invoice. And I need to file ITC 01 within 30 days of withdrawal of scheme in order to claim the ITC on my stock, whatever the stock which is lying in my hand. CMP 05, notice for denial of option to pay tax under by the section by proper officer may issue a notice. CMP 06, reply shall be given by the taxpayer for the notice issued by the taxpayer under CMP 05, that no reply shall be given within 15 days of the receipt of such a notice. CMP 07, order for acceptance or rejection of reply notice by the proper officer, and he will pass an order, either accepting order or rejection order, within period of 30 days of the receipt of such reply. Next one, CMP 08, I already covered. This is a statement of payment of self-assessed tax. This is a quarterly return. It shall be filed within 18 days from the end of the respective quarter. As per notification number 31/2020 CT for the Q4 financial year 1920, it is extended up to 7th July. And the last one is GST ITC 01. As I already said, any person voluntary withdraw the scheme, composition to regular, are denied the scheme by officer within 30 days from the date of option is withdrawn, or from the date of order, pass the GST CMP, file GST ITC to claim the ITC on the stock lying with the taxpayer, or the semi-finished goods or finished goods. This is called GST ITC 01.
I request Harkishan sir to take over the
Yes,
proceedings.
Just one
My side is
second.
done, sir.
Kedarnath, just 1 second, stop sharing the screen for 1 minute. Satish bhai, you can just be ready with Harikishan sir's brief introduction, but did you, okay, just 1 second, I'm trying something. Okay, so Haribhai, you can just touch, you can try to touch the certificate, and Kedar, you can also show your hand, take your hand to certificate. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
After this, we will just get it printed, and then we will hand it over to you on behalf of Institute. You can accept it. And Satish Mailavarupu, just a quick introduction of Harikishan bhai, and then we'll go with question answers, Hari bhai. Okay, thank you.
1 minute.
Yes, Satish.
Yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Harikishan needs no introduction. Partner of
No problem. I don't.
Okay.
Thank you, Harkishan Bhaiya. We are really privileged to have today here as a moderator. Are you audible, sir? Is it audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
please, please.
Yes,
go ahead.
yes, you are audible. You are audible.
Harkishan is a senior most chartered, one of the chartered from GPH Straight, Hyderabad. He's very well versed with all GST, and he is one of the topmost, I can say, in Hyderabad GST practitioner. Which is brief. I don't want to waste much of the members' time, and I'm heading over to Harkishan Bhai.
Yeah, thanks. So I would like to appreciate Kedar's efforts and presentation. He has covered maximum to the extent possible. However, and he is younger and maybe covered substantially. One or two minor issues are not covered. I would like to cover those issues and to full make success that this basic understanding about the thing. So this is a constitutional issue. In spite of that, I would like to pose one question: whether the government has any right or constitutionally permitted us to do business in a specific way. What to sell, how to sell, when to sell. Can the government decide it? So this is the food for thought. Right? The only intention of the government is to collect the taxes on right time, on right value. Right? So the important terms covered by Kedarnath is what is a consisting of supplies and what is a bundled services, conjunction with each other, all together, joining together, and ordinary course of business, and one of which is principal supply. So the definition has given one of element is a principal supply. Suppose if more than one principal supply is then what is the solution? Right? Then if more than one principal supply is there, it will lead to a mixed supply. Constituent of predominant element of principal supply, the other is the ancillary one. When one is there, then composite supply. If more than one is there, then you have to go for mixed supply concept. In mixed supply, one of the observation made by me is not bundled. In my opinion, not bundled may not be there. So if it is bundled or other than no bundle, so it is not a negative activity, neutral or negative activity. Bundled is a positive activity. In mixed supply, you are saying that not bundled means it can be give two meanings. Any interpretation consists of three: positive, negative, and neutral. So if you are saying not bundled, then it will cover bundled and neutrality also. So which may not be correct in my view, and it may give different result than the required result. And in case of in composite supply, the term used is principal supply, right? If you refer the definition principal supply, in principal supply the term used composite supply. In mixed supply, if you refer other than composite supply. So three definitions are there. One is principal supply, one is mixed supply, and one is composite supply, and in each of them other term used interchange. Term is to be evaluated first. The law is not clear, right? And meaning of predominant supply and ancillary supply. Meaning of predominant supply and ancillary supply, that has to see in the perspective of the receiver, not the perspective of the seller. Predominant supply to be viewed in perspective of the receiver. For example, audit report we are giving. What is the purpose of audit report? Taking a paper or getting an opinion with respect to audit report, right? So the predominance will be decided by the recipient, not the supplier. This is the so these are the following observations made by me, and I would like to compliment 100% to Kedarnath for what he has put efforts, and wholeheartedly appreciating his efforts. And presentation also very neat. Maybe some one or more minor different views may be there, but I wholeheartedly appreciate for Kedar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And it,
So-
Kedar, believe me, it never looked like it was your first presentation. You looked to be a seasoned, and believe me, talking on Zoom is very, very difficult. In a physical meeting, we can talk. Satish bhai, what I request you is, rather than me checking the questions, I request you to go through the questions, and what have been covered, you don't have to read back, because, and what are bit important you take it, because 6 o'clock I have Sachin's meeting. 730 people are registered for that. Okay.
Okay.
So please quickly wrap it up. This one.
We will close quickly. Haribhai, can I continue with the questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The first question is Srikanth. I think Srikanth is very much well versed with the subject, and from these questions we can understand how smart he is. But still, we have to satisfy his ego. Are there any principles to determine what is the principal supply that is predominant element? For example, when I buy hardware and software together. Now the question is whether on what basis now you say whether the hardware is the principal supply or the software is principal supply.
That's what I mean. Predominant supply will be decided based on the purpose of the buyer.
Okay.
Kedar, you differ with me or you concur with me? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Kedar, would you like to answer? You are able to listen.
Sir, can you repeat the question once again?
You can also open Q&A. Q&A, just
Q&A,
click
second
on
question.
Q&A.
Second one, sir.
Kedar, you see Q&A below.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got
Just
it.
click on that. Second, I think second question.
Second one. Yeah.
Maybe
Sir,
there
how
is a-
easy it is to determine whether the supply is naturally bundled? That question?
No, before that there was a question which I have removed.
Oh, okay.
it should be in answered. If you are removed, it will be in answered.
Answer.
Oh, right.
Are there any principles to determine what is the principal supply that is predominant element? For example, when I buy hardware and software, that
So in this scenario, we have to consider what is the essential element. Take, according to me, as per my knowledge, let's say, suppose I'm buying a computer and I'm also taking a. So this is a concept of a composition. This is a combination of a service as well as a goods. I'm buying a laptop. Along with the laptop, I'm taking some Windows installation services or MS Office installation services. In this case, I can say that this is a predominant supply. The predominant supply is a supply of a goods. And as per my view, this can be considered as this can be considered as a composite supply because of laptop which I'm buying. For that only I'm installing the installation services. This is a one way. And in the second view or in the second dimension, we can also say that the software license also can be available in the open market. It can also be a part of a mixed supply also. Then maybe two possible answers will be available.
Okay.
next question is how easy it is to determine whether the supply is naturally bundled.
Based on the facts and circumstances of each case, sir.
Okay. Then again, Srikanth.
I'll answer. Satish,
Yeah, please,
I will answer
go
this
ahead.
question. Yeah. Naturally bundled will be decided on the person who is doing the business, whether the same process following for all the things uniformly and giving an option to take or not, or prevailing environment in which it is functioning, all the people are following the same system. The perception of the receiver, what he is giving is the same. All these are the consolidated factors you have to consider facts. It is based on the facts of the case. Seller perspective, business perspective, environmental perspective, advertisement, brochure, right? And immediate receiver, immediate receiving by the receiver. All these to be considered whether it is a ordinary course of business or not.
Yeah. Next question I request Harikishan sir to answer this question. Applying the definition of composite supply, can I interpret that in case of sale of flat or villa by a builder, land is the principal supply and hence not taxable? Will the answer differ if the builder is also the owner of the land?
Can you repeat once again, Satish? Question, please.
Applying the definition of composite supply,
Hmm.
can I interpret that in case of sale of flat or villa by a builder, land is the
Right.
principal supply and hence not taxable?
If you
If the
refer the
answer
definition,
differ,
yeah, I
if the
understand the
answer
question.
differ, if the builder is also owner of the land.
I'll explain this. For the purpose of going to composite supply, first of all, if you go to the definition of section 2, subsection 30, both should be taxable supply.
So it is a mixed
All the
supply.
supplies, more than one supply is there, whether it may be service or combination, anything. If all are there, then only you have to go for test for composite supply. If one is taxable and another is not taxable, then the test of composite supply does not arise at all, first of all. So then what is the next question in that
The
portion?
next question. Next portion is,
Yeah.
while the answer differs if the builder is also the owner of the land.
No, builder, so specifically, this is covered as a service under schedule 2, clause 5. And
Exactly.
prior to construction is there, if you take any advances, specific situation he has given, right? If that is the case, then he is going for, it will not become a immovable property, then it will become a service. Once it is service, then all the rules and regulations apply as per law.
So the next question, in case of mixed supply, if the rate of all goods are given separately in a single bill, still highest rate out of such goods will apply to the entire bill items, or different rate will be charged for different products in the same bill. Kedar, please answer.
Yes, sir. In case of a mixed supply, as I said, the mixed supply means a combination of a goods. Say, if the goods are at manufacturer levels, we need to think about the best example which I was quoted, that is called a toothpaste and a toothbrush. Generally, we see in a combo pack which comes one toothbrush and one toothpaste. So this is a concept of a mixed supply, and the manufacturer intentionally is selling the product, and it can be separable. Hence, that is called as that is a mixed supply. Hence, the highest rate of the tax will be applicable.
I would like to clarify one more thing here. The thing is, with respect to supplies, if you refer the definition of mixed supply, it uses the term as individual items, right? Whereas if you go to the definition of composite supply, it uses the term as a taxable supplies. So if it is an individual item, each item is separately priced and packed together and sold. So in my view, it may not be mixed supply. It will be regular under section 9. It can't go to section 9. And one more thing, the purpose and object of composite supply and mixed supply is to, if you go through section 8, it clearly explains the tax liability for more than one in case of mixed supply, composite supply, determined in the following manner. If you go through the section 8, the very purpose of tax is consist of 3 elements. One is levy, second is assessment, and third is collection. So in the section 8 specifically, it says that is a determination of tax and in a specified manner. It means it is the process of assessment. Process of assessment consists of finding out the value or finding out the rate at which it is applicable. Am I clear, Satish?
Yeah.
Hello?
It is very clear.
So the very purpose and object of section 8 is to ascertain and determine the rate. So this will not talk about the levy, or this will not talk about the collection. This is the center part of the assessment. You are going to cover the assessment part, right?
Yeah. Next question is, supply of services by way of installation of network, radio cabling on the site is a works contract. So my thing is that this question does not belong to this session, I feel. So we will defer this question for the We'll defer this question to the last session where we are going to have a panel discussion. In case of composite supply, if mobile and charger price is given separately in bill, still mobile rate should only apply to entire bill.
So in general practice, when we buy a new mobile, in the box itself consists of a mobile as well as a charger. The manufacturer, he himself provides both the thing in a mixed supply, in the concept of a mixed supply. Again, when we see the invoice, always the invoice will consist of the price of a mobile, and it does not consist of a charger price. This is my understanding. I feel there is no question of charger and mobile when you buy in a new thing. I am telling about a new mobile. There may not arise. Suppose in case of suppose if you wish to go for a independently, that is independent tax rate can be go. Suppose I lost my charger, then I want to purchase a new charger, then I can go and buy a new charger, and that is a independent, whatever the rate prevails, that can be charged by the shopkeeper.
Right.
This is my basic understanding. Please
Right.
clarify, sir.
Kedar, whatever you are telling is correct. That is given by High Court also. But in one of the VAT cases, in case of Nokia, right, what they analyzed and explained, Nokia charger can be used for any model, not only for that particular model. Right? I'm telling you the facts of Supreme Court judgment. I'm telling you. In case of Nokia situations, it says both are different and independently taxable at a respective rates. Charger is considered as an electronic item, and electrical or electronic, exactly, I'm not specifically remember the term, but mobile is considered as a mobile, right? So it is still, it is not come to conclusion, but whereas, however, this has given by a Supreme Court judgment in case of VAT laws, right? But whatever you told with respect to GST and High Court judgment is there, but both are same facts. But in that one analysis made, charger can be used for different phones also. So nothing is right and nothing is wrong. You have to see each and every fact and each and every case independently and separately, right?
Next question is in case of mixed supply, in your example, a Diwali gift box, though packed together, can the supplier make a bill listing each item separately so that the customer does not end up paying the more tax? Is it possible? Or it can be planned like that? That is the question.
Kedar, answer it.
Once it is a gift box, means the billing shall be done as a whole. It cannot be independently, we can do it. Suppose if at all the end user placing an order for independent item, he takes to his home, or else he makes a packet, that is a different scenario. But my understanding, in case of a Diwali gift box, whatever he makes as a gift packing, then it is already made with a mixed supply. A combination of a sale is already done. Hence, it cannot be, the price cannot be independently divided. Like each component tax element cannot be given in the bill.
For this purpose only, I raised a question. Can the government insist you to the business as per their choice? Right? So,
and our Naresh Kelly sitting there says, yes, government has every right to do. Haribhai, point to be noted.
subjected to constitution.
Subjected to
It is
fundamental
subjected to
right
constitution.
of fundamental
Subjected to
rights.
constitution. Constitution. Right. Satish, next.
I think the other questions are repetitive in nature and some are already answered by Kedar, or some are very small questions. Can I shift from composite to regular scheme in the middle of
In fact, that one question he was also following up with me, Satish Bhai. That he has one question is from Fanindra Nath.
Okay.
If you look at it, that I already first he put it in chat, then I asked him to put it here. He first comes into
composition.
First time in composition scheme.
I'm reading the question. First I am in composition scheme, then because of turnover I am into regular. Then after this, how can I convert from regular to composition scheme?
Yes, sir. So in order to convert from a regular to composition, the basic condition is threshold limit. If your threshold limit, the turnover does not exceed, in case of a goods, 1.5 crore, or in case of a service, that is a 50 lakhs, as I said. If the threshold limit is not crossing, you can convert from the regular scheme to composition scheme. First one. Second thing, you have to wait for prior to the commencement of the financial year. You can shift from the regular to composition. Again, as I said, that based on the notification number which is issued by the CBIC with notification number 30/2020, for opting for a composition scheme for the current financial year, that is for the financial year 2021, the time will be still available up to 30th June 2020. So in between, one cannot convert from the regular to composition, but from composition to regular, in the middle of the year, one can convert. This is my answer, sir.
Yeah.
So, Pankaj bhai, most of the questions, I think we have answered the majority of questions. And now it is...
Yes, Satish bhai, I think you can just hand it over to Hari bhai so that he can take it.
I am very much thankful for giving me this opportunity by Institute and make me do some contribution to the society.
Thank you.
Whatever I know, I would like to share.
Thank you very much, Hari bhai. It was a pleasure having you. And frankly, I still remember my days when Ajay Gandhi sir was the chairman, and I gave my first presentation on capital gains, where I think Devdas sir was the moderator. And the fact that having an excellent moderator would definitely make us feel very, very confident. I'm sure Kedar will also become a speaker like Satish bhai, Sudhir bhai and all one day, and he will also train several other people. So on behalf of all the delegates, my special thanks to Kedar, because Kedar, I'm getting very good messages in my phone saying that very good presentation. So keep it up.
Thanks a lot.
Hari bhai, your moderation was excellent. Thank you. Satish bhai, I don't have to praise you because every time you do a good job. So mere paas nothing new to tell about you.
Pankaj bhai, you have praised my boy. So indirectly you also praised me also. Thank you very much.
So thank you all the attendees. It was a great session. Day 3 was excellent. Now day 4, batting number 4, Sachin generally comes to bat. So tomorrow we'll be having, when Dravid has batted so well, Sachin will definitely bat tomorrow well.
Once again, thanks for giving me the opportunity as a moderator to Pankaj, Satish, Sudhir, Radhika and all our friends.
Sir, thank you.
Sir, from the bottom of my heart, my sincere thanks to Hyderabad chapter, the management committee, and special thanks to Pankaj sir and Satish Saraf sir and Harikeshan sir and Satish Mairwarku sir. All the members, I sincerely thanks for giving this opportunity and to speak for day 3 session. Really, I'm fortunate that as a part of GST Discourse, I'm also a part of one member. I really thanks to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Satish bhai, about tomorrow's program, what is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow we are going to deal with the reverse charge mechanism and exemptions. So tomorrow's speaker is Arpan Bhora and moderator is Sriram. So we are going to have another marathon session tomorrow. And the section 9, subsection 3 and subsection 4 of the CGST Act and section 5, subsection 3 and subsection 4 of the IGST Act we are going to.
Just close your eye.
So I think the participant will be conversant with the section 9, subsection 3 and 4 and section 5, subsection 3 and 4 of IGST, such that we can have a wonderful session tomorrow. Thank you one and all. Have a nice time.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, Kedar, the word has spread, and Danny was just called me and said, I believe Kedarnath has done a wonderful job. I don't know how it has gone. I just got a call and he was very eager to come also. I don't know, but thank you very much. Thanks one and all. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Signing off. Huh?